Namaste, and welcome to today's Power Your Day Power Yoga class, beginning today's session in mountain pose at the top of our mats. Spreading our toes wide, letting them drop into the mat, lifting the heels, letting them drop into the mat. Preparing ourselves for an active and strong, powerful practice today, beginning in mountain pose. Finding ourselves all four corners of our feet into the mat, engaging our inner thighs, our quads, our spine, lifting up through our ribs, shoulders back and down, palms facing forward, standing eyes closed or open, our choice. Finding our whisper breath for today, our yoga breath. Perhaps setting an intention for today's class. That can be physical, spiritual, mental, or perhaps just dedicating our practice to someone that needs this positive energy. On the inhale, let's bring arms up to the sky, palms together, hands through the heart. Beginning by flowing through this mountain flow, inhaling, arms up to the sky, palms together, all the way through our heart center, down until the fingers release, inhaling up, warming up the shoulders to begin with, flowing through this about 5 to 10 times, inhaling as we rise, exhaling down. And one more down to our sides, taking a wide step, facing the long edge of our mat, getting ready for our sunflowers. Toes in, heels out, or toes out, heels in, I should say. Placing ourselves in sunflower or sun pose, palms facing up, shoulders back and down. We can gaze up to where the wall or meets the ceiling or to the ceiling. On the inhale, bringing palms together, beginning to flow. On the exhale, hinging from the hips, leading from the heart, scooping our hands. On the inhale, reversing, inhaling, coming all the way up. Exhaling again, leading through the heart, hinging from the hips, squatting down into that nice comfy seat on the inhale as we rise. Flowing through this yoga flow. Beginning today's practice by warming up all those large body parts that we're going to use throughout today's practice, getting ourselves ready to move safely in and out of all of our poses. Flowing a few more. And coming to standing, hands to the heart and the hips, stepping up to the top of our mats for mountain pose. On the inhale, exalted mountain, exhaling, forward fold. Deep bend in our knees. Planting both hands into the mat, stepping back with one foot and the next, getting ready for downward facing dog, our first one of the day. Walking the heels out, walking the dog. Feeling the hamstrings and the calves lengthen out. And coming to a full down dog, working the heels towards the mat, slight bend in our knees, bringing the hips up towards the sky as we bring the heart down towards our quads. Externally rotating the elbows and shoulders, pressing into the mat with the front part of our hand. On our next exhale, coming to our knees, preparing for cat-cow flow. Checking our alignment, shoulders, wrists, and elbows in line with each other, and knees directly underneath our hip bones. Long line in our spine, reaching out through the crown of our head, taking an inhale here. Exhaling, tucking tailbone under, rounding our back to the sky. Last thing to drop is the chin to the chest. On the inhale, reversing that for cow. Tailbone first, softening the belly to the earth, shoulders back and down, and we gaze up to where the wall meets the ceiling. Flowing through these two poses, cat and cow, warming up our spine. taking care to simply go where our body wants us to go. Not over-exaggerating the pose in one direction or the other. And coming back onto all fours, preparing for sunbird. Taking the right leg, bringing it to a 90-degree angle, bringing the toes pointing towards the shins, squaring the hips to our mat. And then reaching out with the opposite fingertips, taking an inhale. On the exhale, bringing knee to elbow and tucking the head in towards the knee on the inhale as we spread the wings. Exhaling, coming in. Inhaling, sunbird. Flowing through this, let's do 5 on each side. And switching sides. This time left leg, 90-degree angle. Toes pointing towards the shin, reaching up with the right hand this time. Palm facing inward. Taking a deep inhale on the exhale. Coming into that crunch. Inhaling, coming up. And flowing for 5. Always working with our breath. And one more, coming on to all fours. Bringing ourselves into child's pose. Bringing our glutes down as far as we can towards the heels. Extending the arms out in front of us, forehead to the ground. Or stacking the fists and placing the forehead on the fists. Continuing through our movement, not staying here too long. Extending the arms out, spreading fingers wide, suction cupping those hands into the mat. Tucking the toes. Pushing up, downward facing dog. Beginning with our first half series of the day. On the inhale, shifting forward for a plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, upward facing dog. And exhaling, right back to down dog. From here, either stepping up, jumping up, or gently floating up to the top of our mats. For a forward fold. Reverse swan dive, coming all the way out, wings out to our sides, palms up towards the sky. Exhaling, hands to heart center and to our side for mountain pose. Flowing through a chair flow here, inhaling, exalted mountain. Exhaling, spreading our arms wide and coming into chair pose. Inhaling as we rise. Reaching up to the sky, exhaling for chair pose. Let's flow 3 to 5 times. Sinking our seat down as is comfortable for us. And inhaling one more time, bringing the hands to the heart center and into mountain pose. Continuing the practice with some sun salutations, we'll begin with 2 modified sun salutations and then moving forward into 2 full sun salutations. Taking a deep inhale, exalted mountain. Exhaling, forward fold, deep bend in our knees. Inhaling, halfway lift, straight back for monkey pose. Exhaling, forward fold, stepping back with the right foot. Bringing the knee to the ground on the inhale, crescent lunge option. Exhaling, pushing back to child's pose. Inhaling, kneeling plank. Exhaling, kneeling crocodile. Inhaling for cobra. Exhaling, pushing back to child's pose. Inhaling, stepping up with the right foot. Option to come into crescent lunge. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, reversing the swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, sitting into chair. Let's move through modified on the left side now. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold, stepping back with the left knee to the ground. Inhaling, crescent lunge. Exhaling, child's pose. Shifting forward on the inhale, kneeling plank. Exhaling, crocodile. And then to our bellies on the inhale for cobra. Pushing back to child's pose on the exhale. Inhaling, stepping forward with the left, option for crescent lunge. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, deep bend in the knees, reversing the swan dive. We hinge from the hips, lead through the heart. Exalted mountain. Exhaling, sitting into chair. Moving on to our full sun salutations with the option to continue with modified. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold, stepping back with the right foot, full lunge this time, option for crescent lunge, otherwise the hand is on our quad. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, upward facing dog. And then let's flow back to down dog. Stepping up with our right foot, coming up into our crescent lunge. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, sinking into chair. Inhaling, exalted mountain. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold, stepping back with that left foot, dropping the knee if we need to, crescent lunge. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, 4, upward facing dog. Exhaling, down dog. Stepping up with that left foot, coming into our crescent lunge, and then on the exhale, forward fold. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling into chair. One more each side. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold, stepping back with the right foot on the inhale, crescent lunge. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, upward facing dog. And right back to down dog. Stepping up with that right foot, crescent lunge. On the exhale, forward fold. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling into chair. One more time, inhaling up. Exhaling, reaching for the earth. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling down, stepping back with the left foot, crescent lunge. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, up dog. Coming all the way back to down dog. Lifting that left leg up to the side. Sky, stepping up in between the hands. Crescent lunge. Stepping forward on the exhale. Inhaling all the way up. And let's come into chair. Holding here for 2 breaths. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, forward fold. Taking a deep bend in the knees if we need to. Coming into the hand to big toe forward fold, we can take the index finger and middle finger, wrap them around each big toe. On the inhale, we lift up through the legs, lift up through the tailbone. On the exhale, we fold over, long spine. Let's do that again. Inhaling, lifting up through the arms, the legs, the shoulders, flat back. Exhaling, sinking down. Releasing the clasp, bringing fingertips to the floor, reverse swan dive, coming all the way up. Exhaling, mountain pose. Choosing a chest expansion here, reaching behind us. We can stay here as we work the hands towards each other, or we can interlace fingers. Finding that deep stretch between the shoulders and the pectorals. If we choose to, bringing our ribs towards our thighs, pointing the knuckles up to where the wall meets the ceiling. If we've chosen to come down here, let's release fingertips to the floor, having everyone meet back in mountain pose, inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, arms to our sides. Preparing for airplane pose. Hinging from our hips, pushing the hips backwards, leading through our heart until our body is an L shape. Our torso is parallel to the ground. Bringing our arms to our sides, palms facing in. The arms are in line with the side body. Lifting up through that tailbone. Extending through the fingertips, bringing our shoulders back and down for airplane pose. 3 to 5 breaths. Releasing, bringing fingertips to the floor, deep bend in the knees. Option to stay here or move into gorilla pose, placing the hands underneath the feet, having the toes meet up with the wrists. For a really nice wrist stretch, lifting up through the hands as we push down through the feet. Releasing, taking the hands out, coming to monkey pose, halfway lift. We have the option here to do a nice wrist stretch, rotating the wrists in one direction and then the other, and then perhaps pointing them down and then up. Deep bend in the knees, planting the hands to the ground, moving to downward facing dog. Walking those feet out, walking the dog. Taking notice how our body feels right now. Letting go of any expectations we have of our body, any judgments we have of our body. Just accepting today's practice for what it is and remaining in the moment. Moving into warrior one, left leg up towards the sky, stepping that foot up in between the hands, dropping the back foot at an angle, taking as wide a stance as we need to. Adjusting the stance on the inhale, hinging from the hips, leading from the heart, coming all the way up for warrior one, sinking down into the pose. Pressing the mat apart with our feet, checking our alignment. The knee is in line with the big toe, knee is stacked over the ankle. On the inhale, let's rise slightly. Exhaling, sinking into the pose, perhaps twisting, starting from the belly button towards the front of our mat. On the inhale, coming up, exhaling, swan diving, hands to the ground, pushing back, downward facing dog. Moving over onto the other side, now right leg up to the sky, stepping that right foot up in between the hands, coming into warrior one on this side now. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling, sinking into the pose. Inhaling, rising slightly. Exhaling, twisting and lunging. Feeling strong, like a warrior, a beautiful, gentle warrior. On the inhale, lifting, exhaling, scooping those hands down to the ground, pushing back, downward facing dog. Having the option here to remain in down dog, rest in child's pose, or flow through a half series, coming into plank, crocodile, upward facing dog, and right back to downward facing dog. Flowing through our second warrior series for today on the inhale, lifting the left leg up to the sky, stepping that foot up in between the hands, dropping the back foot, moving into warrior one on the inhale as we rise with the strength of our core, long spine, sinking into warrior one. Immediately moving to warrior two. On the inhale, we lift. Exhaling, opening up the body, adjusting the back stance if we need to. Checking our alignment. Having our arms at shoulder height. Our torso is in a straight line from the pelvic floor all the way up to our head. And we try to face the heart towards the long edge of the mat. Let's take a breath, lift the knee. Exhaling, come back to warrior two, flip the palm, preparing for reverse warrior. We shift forward to create space, and then reach up and over, resting the back hand on the back hamstring. Our warrior legs are still in place here. Taking a few breaths. On the next inhale, we lift gently. On the exhale, warrior two. Inhaling up, exhaling, let's circle sweep the hands, push back, downward facing dog. On our next inhale, right leg up to the sky, stepping up in between the hands, dropping the back foot, coming into warrior one. Feeling strong, warming up our bodies, testing our limits, just like a true warrior. Inhaling up, exhaling, warrior two, adjusting our stance if we need to. Three to five breaths here. On our next inhale, let's lift slightly, exhaling warrior two, preparing for reverse warrior, flipping the front palm, coming forward slightly and then up and over, resting the back hand on that hamstring. Reaching up through the side ribs and then slightly bending over for a nice side lateral stretch here. On our next inhale, we come up, exhaling warrior two. Inhaling up, exhaling, circle sweeping the hands, downward facing dog. We'll be seeing a lot of these today. Again, option to stay here, rest in child's pose, or flow through our half series. Inhaling, kneeling or plank. Exhaling, crocodile. Inhaling, up dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. As we move through our half series, feel free to move through the modified half series, which is a kneeling plank, kneeling crocodile, cobra, and then right back to a child's pose. Stepping up in between our hands here for forward fold. Inhaling, hinging from the hips, coming all the way up, exalted mountain. Exhaling, sinking into chair. Inhaling up, and returning to mountain pose. We'll be moving into a few twisting chairs. We have the option, if we feel like our balance is with us today, to bring the feet closer together, bringing the big toes together. Otherwise, we keep the hip width distance apart. On the inhale, coming into exalted mountain. Exhaling, hands to heart, sinking into chair. Let's take an inhale. On the exhale, we'll twist, starting from the belly button, bringing the left elbow to the outside of the right knee, pressing our palms together and opening up that heart towards the sky on the right side. Always trying to keep the knees so that they're in line with each other. And sinking down into that chair. Let's take an inhale. On the exhale, coming back to center, hands to heart. On our next inhale, rising, opening up our hearts and wings up to the sky. Exhaling, sinking into chair. Taking an inhale. On the exhale, twisting to the other side. Right elbow to the outside of the left knee, pressing hands together, twisting, starting from the belly button, all the way up to the head. Taking a few breaths here. On the next exhale, coming to center, inhaling up, opening up our wingspan, and back to mountain pose. Continuing with some twisting in our practice here. Moving into a lunge on the inhale, arms up to the sky. Exhaling, forward fold, deep bend in our knees. Stepping back with the right foot this time. We have the option to drop the back knee or not, our choice. Placing the right hand to the inside of the left foot. We can use a block here if we wish. Full hand to the floor, fist or fingertips, our choice. As we remain in this lunge, beginning to take an inhale. On the exhale, twisting towards that front lunge legs and opening up the heart towards the left, twisting lunge. Holding for 3 breaths here. Pushing through that back heel if we've chosen to remain in the full lunge. On our next exhale, hand down to the ground. Pushing back, downward facing dog. Let's walk those heels out for a second. And just take note of our body, left or right. How does it feel? What are the differences? Don't judge, just notice. Bringing that right leg up to the sky, stepping up in between the hands. Option to drop the back knee or not for our lunge. This time, left hand to the inside of the right foot. Choosing a fist will definitely solidify your wrist here if you have weak wrists. Taking an inhale. Exhaling, twisting over towards the right this time. Always following proper alignment, starting with the belly button, working all our way up to the top of the head. Taking a few breaths here. Definitely feeling the heat of this practice today. On the exhale, hand down to the ground, downward facing dog. And you guessed it, we can choose to stay here. We can come into child's pose to rest or flow, inhaling plank, exhaling crocodile, inhaling up dog, inhaling right back to down dog. Continuing into our next warrior series, taking the left leg up to the sky, stepping up in between the hands. Warrior 1, dropping the back foot. Let's come up. Sinking into the pose as we exhale. Feeling strong like a warrior. Inhaling up, exhaling, opening, warrior 2. Feeling those warrior legs. Coming into triangle pose, straightening the front leg, placing the left hand either to the inside of the thigh or shin or to the floor, always keeping the body nice and open, twisting from the belly button, coming all the way up, triangle pose. Option to gaze up at the hand, just in front, or down to the ground. Having that nice triangle shape between the front leg and back leg. On the inhale, we come into warrior 2, exhaling down. Continuing for extended side angle, shifting and hinging the front arm. Let's bring it to the front thigh to begin with, opening up the heart. Option to bring this arm, the left arm, to the inside of the leg or floor, as long as we're able to keep that heart open. Choosing to extend by reaching above the ear, palm facing down towards the ground. We can stay here or choose bound angle, taking the left arm reaching underneath the knee, top arm reaching behind the back, finding that clasp, and then opening up the heart towards the right. keeping those warrior legs still. On the next exhale, releasing, coming back to warrior two. Bringing hands to our hips, adjusting our stance, coming into warrior one. Flowing to our pyramid pose, let's step both sets of toes so that they're facing the front edge of the mat. Adjusting our stance so that the distance between the front heel and back toes are approximately a foot or two apart. Railroad tracking our feet. Pushing the hips back, flowing into pyramid pose, bringing the ribs towards the thigh. Choosing to place the hands either on our quad, our shin, or fingertips or full hand to the floor. Working the legs towards each other as if they were a pair of scissors. Feeling a very deep stretch in the front hamstring of the left leg right now. So that is our leg that is towards the front. Moving into twisting triangle. Using a block if we need to here, and perhaps even stepping the back leg up slightly. Placing the hand onto a block or floor or fingertips to the inside of the left foot, or also option to come to the outside of the left foot. Let's take an inhale, and on the exhale we'll begin twisting towards the left. Twisting triangle. On the exhale, coming down, removing the block if we've used one, and pushing back to downward facing dog. Choosing to stay here, child's pose, or flow. Our choice. Bringing the right leg up to the sky, stepping up in between our hands, doing the whole same series on this side now, dropping the back foot. Warrior one. Exhaling, sinking into the pose. Inhaling up, exhaling, warrior two. Adjusting our stance. Finding our alignment. On the inhale, lifting the front leg, straightening out the leg, placing the hand either to the inside of the thigh or shin or to the floor, using a block if we need to. On the inhale, opening up that left hip, starting to twist from the belly button up to the head, arm up to the sky, triangle pose. On our next inhale, rising up, warrior two. Taking an inhale, exhaling, side angle. Our choice as to where we want to place the hand, option to extend the side angle by extending the left arm to the top of the ear, extending the hand out, palm facing down. Choosing to stay here, come into the bound side angle. Reaching the right arm underneath the left knee, bringing the other hand behind the back and opening up the heart towards the left. Wherever we are, releasing, coming back to warrior two. And then finding ourselves in a warrior one with both sets of toes pointing forward. This is a warrior one with a short stance. Straightening out the front leg, hinging those hips back, pushing them backwards, hinging from the hips, bringing the ribs towards the thigh. Keeping at least a micro bend in our front knee. Adjusting our stance as we feel comfortable for pyramid pose. Scissoring those legs towards each other. Squaring the hips to the front of the mat. Moving into our twisting triangle, option to use a block. Taking an inhale. Exhaling, twisting towards the right this time. Keeping that triangle shape in our legs. On our next exhale, let's come down, push back, downward facing dog. Choosing to stay here, rest, or come into our half series flow. Inhaling for plank, exhaling crocodile, inhaling upward facing dog, and exhaling back to down dog. Taking that left leg up to the sky. On the exhale, stepping up in between the hands, warrior one. Inhaling as we rise. Exhaling into warrior one. On our next exhale, hands to hip. Stepping forward slightly with the back leg. Preparing ourselves for warrior three. Pointing the right toes back, grounding ourselves into the earth. Spreading the toes wide on the left foot. Placing most of our weight now into this left leg. We'll have the options to extend the arms back or out in front, whatever we wish. From here, with the strength of our core and the strength of our left leg, we lift up through that left heel, toes pointing towards the shin. We hinge forward until the body is parallel to the ground. We lift the back leg as far as we can until it's parallel to the ground. A few breaths here. On the next exhale, bringing fingertips to the floor, bending the legs slightly. Coming into a standing splits. Lifting that left leg up, hinging forward, bringing our ribs towards the thigh, pointing the right leg up towards the sky. Everyone has a different place to be here. On the exhale, coming down. Planting the hands to the earth, stepping back, downward facing dog. This time, right leg up to the sky, stepping up in between the hands. Flowing into warrior one, dropping the back foot. Inhaling as we come up. Exhaling, sinking into warrior one. Inhaling and then exhaling, hands to our thighs, preparing ourselves for warrior three on this side. Spreading the toes wide on that right foot to find the earth, find the balance, find the stability. Pointing the left toes back. Let's begin by hinging from the hips. And then begin lifting up the left heel, toes pointing towards the shin. Arms either out to our side or reaching out in front. Palms facing in either case. Working towards having the body parallel to the earth as well as the leg. On our next exhale, fingertips to the floor, we can bend the knee slightly. Always the option to bring the other leg down to the ground if we wish. And then on the inhale, lifting up, fingertips are to the floor, and pointing those toes up towards the sky on the left leg, standing splits. On the exhale, let's bring that foot down, plant the hands, downward facing dog. Flowing through our half series, if we wish, for plank, exhaling crocodile, inhaling upward facing dog, exhaling right back to down dog. And let's find ourselves on our knees, forearms to the ground. Moving into dolphin flow. In order to do that, let's reach opposite elbows with our hands to create the proper space. And interlace our fingers together out in front of us so that we have a triangular shape. In our forearms, we can tuck the pinkies under so that it feels better. Having our knees directly underneath our hip bones, we tuck the toes under. And as if we were going to go into downward facing dog, we lift those hips up. Slight bend in our knees, gazing forward towards the hands or into the triangle for a dolphin pose. And we exhale, dropping the knees. Hands to the ground, stepping forward for forward fold. Inhaling, exalted mountain. Exhaling, sinking into chair. And then coming into mountain pose. Taking our right leg, stepping to the wide edge of our mat. Pointing both sets of toes forward, preparing for standing straddle splits. Taking as wide of a stance as we possibly can that is comfortable for us. Pushing those hips back, leading from the heart, long spine. Working our hands towards the earth, perhaps adjusting our stance again as we get down here. And depending where we are, we may have a few blocks that we're stacking onto or pillows, or perhaps we're on our way to working the forearms to the ground. Whatever is most comfortable. Lifting up through the tailbone, elongating those hamstrings. Also the option to walk the hands back in between the legs. Whatever we're doing, we're always keeping that long spine from the bottom of our spine all the way to the top of our head. Wherever we are, let's begin walking up. And we'll pivot forward towards the front of our mat. Stepping forward for a forward fold. Inhaling, coming all the way up. Exhaling into mountain pose. And moving into our balancing pose portion of our power yoga flow today. Either standing at the top of our mat or wherever is comfortable for you. Preparing for eagle pose. Standing in mountain pose and finding that earth underneath our feet, especially in this right leg at the moment, spreading the toes wide, finding all four corners of our feet. Let's take an inhale, lift the left leg, cross it over. This might be where we are. Otherwise, we can tuck those toes behind the leg. Next, we'll take the left arm, place it under, right arm, place it above it, crossing at the elbows, and then crossing again until we meet the hands together in prayer. On the inhale, let's lift the elbows. On the exhale, let's sink down into our seat for eagle pose. Perhaps finding our gaze somewhere around where the forearms are. And if we're just learning this pose, work on just doing the arms or just the legs, one or the other. Remember, yoga is a practice, it's not a perfect. On the next exhale, let's release legs and arms to our sides. Finding our mountain pose one more time. Let's take an inhale. Exhaling, letting it out. Inhaling. Exhaling, lifting the right leg, placing the weight into our left. Tucking the toes if we can. And then finding our eagle arms, right arm under, left arm up. Finding the prayer hands. Lifting up through the elbows, sinking down through our seat, focusing, finding our balance. On the next exhale, unraveling and coming back to mountain pose, stepping to the top of our mats. Making our way down to our mats, inhaling up, exhaling forward fold. Bringing ourselves onto our bellies for locust pose. Finding ourselves with one cheek to the ground, arms extended out to our sides with the palms facing inward. We can let the shoulders come down to the ground. On the inhaling for locust, bringing the chest up, leading through the heart, shoulders back and down. We point through the toes, engage the inner thighs, quads, point back through the fingertips, point back through the toes for locust pose. Many of us tend to hold our breath in this pose, so if you're doing that, choose to smile and breathe. On the next exhale, letting go, bringing the cheek to the ground. Propping ourselves up onto our forearms for bow pose. We'll flow through 2 sets of bow poses, choosing to do half bow if we wish. So one side for one flow, the other side for the other flow. Or doing 2 full bow poses. Finding ourselves in bow pose, whatever that perfect pose is for us, reaching back to the shins or ankles. Lifting up through the shoulders and heart, engaging inner thighs, quads, pressing hands into shin, shin into hands for bow pose. On the next exhale, release, let go, come back to the forearms. Finding our breath. And either flowing on to the other side, so if we started with right, going with left, or vice versa, or coming into another full bow. On the inhale, lifting up through the heart, shoulders back and down. And then bringing those quads in engagement, inner thighs towards each other, pressing hands into the shin, shin into the hands. On the exhale down, hands to the ground, pushing back to child's pose. Feel free to rock side to side. And bringing ourselves up onto our knees for camel pose. Lifting ourselves up nice and tall. And placing the hands to our sacrum, fingertips facing down. Working the elbows towards each other, opening up the heart. We lift up through the heart, lift up through the ribs, gaze up to where the wall meets the ceiling. Push forward through the hips, engage the quads. If we wish to continue into full camel, reaching back with one hand to the right heel and then the other hand to the left heel, still pushing forward through the hips, opening the heart. Option to let the head drop back. Wherever we are, finding ourselves back up into a kneeling position and pushing back to child's pose. Scooching our legs under, coming into staff pose. Sitting tall on our sits bones, pointing the toes towards our shins. And moving into boat pose. Bringing the soles of the feet to the ground. Grabbing behind the knees and letting ourselves lean back until we have a nice V shape from the quads to the core. From here, finding our perfect boat pose, that might be it. This might be where we are today. Otherwise, we can let go of the hands, or we can keep the hands there and let go of the feet. We can choose to alternate one foot to the other, or we can choose to come into full boat. Wherever we are, choosing to hold for about 5 breaths. And coming down, soles of the feet to the ground. Grabbing onto the knees. And rocking side to side. Preparing for our big toe wide boat. Finding ourselves with the soles of the feet almost together and grabbing onto the outside of the feet or the shins or our big toe yogi hold with the index finger, middle finger wrapped around the big toes. We'll begin by flowing through a big toe wide boat, half on each side. On the inhale, kicking out through the heel, extending through the arm, opening up the hip. Exhaling, back down. Inhaling, other side. And then coming in. Let's do this a few times. Preparing for the full big toe wide boat, or your option to continue flowing. One more time, each side. As we come into our big toe wide boat, finding that small shelf area underneath our bum. And we're going to grab onto these toes, the feet or the shins, letting ourselves find that balance and then kicking out through the heels, extending as far as we can. Big toe wide boat. Taking a few breaths here. I find gazing up at the ceiling helps with the balance, and on the exhale, let's come back down, extend the legs out. Finding ourselves in staff pose again. Preparing for reverse tabletop. Hands behind us, fingers pointing forward, and we're a little wider than shoulder width apart, placing the ankles directly underneath the knees. And on the inhale, lifting up through our tailbone. We can let the head drop if we wish. Otherwise, gazing forward. Let's engage those quads. Let's engage those inner thighs towards each other. And on our next exhale, coming down. Placing the soles of the feet together again for butterfly pose. Grabbing onto the feet, shins, or ankles. Letting ourselves sit onto a block or blanket or a pillow if we wish to prop our hips up. Closing the eyes here. Let's take a deep inhale. And let's exhale through the mouth, letting go of some heat. Doing that again, inhaling through the nose. And sighing out through the mouth. Releasing and letting go of any tension that you're finding in your hips, in your inner thighs. And bring the hands to the knees, bringing the knees together. Letting ourselves rock onto our backs, preparing for bridge pose. Working our way towards final relaxation. Getting ready for bridge pose, let's place those ankles underneath the knees, palms to the ground to either side of our hips. On the inhale, lifting up through the hips, engaging the quads, pretending there's a small ball in between the inner thighs and working the inner thighs towards each other. If it's available to us, we can work the shoulders under, clasp the hands, and point the knuckles towards the heels. Always keeping enough space between the chin and the chest so that we can breathe nicely. On our next exhale, if we've chosen to clasp, we release, untuck the shoulders, having everyone meet back with their back to the ground. From this point forward, we'll be practicing a few back bends. If back bends are not part of your practice, I'll definitely be providing you with some options that you can do instead. We'll be moving into wheel pose. If wheel pose is not part of your practice, please feel free to practice a full bridge or a bridge flow, flowing in and out of bridge until we get out of wheel pose. Always making sure that you do what is comfortable for your body, that you don't harm yourself. Choosing to go into wheel, taking our hands, flipping them back so that the palm comes to the ground, fingertips facing towards the feet. We're a little wider than shoulder width apart. Let's ground ourselves firmly in the hands and in the feet. Working the elbows towards each other. On the inhale, we'll lift through these hips. Round the belly up towards the sky, lift up through the arms, opening up the heart for wheel pose. Holding here for a few breaths. Feet are flat to the ground. On our next exhale, coming down. If you've chosen to go into bridge, please come down to the ground as well. For everyone, reaching behind the knees, knees to chest, pulling those knees to the outer part of our body, gently rocking side to side. Soles of the feet to the ground. We'll be transitioning from legs up the wall. We can choose to do that assisted with a wall or without the wall. From there, moving into a shoulder stand and then plow pose. Again, if you choose to not practice the inversions, if you have a heart condition, inversions are not recommended. Please feel free to simply remain in this position. Practice bridge pose or an assisted legs up the wall. For everyone, moving into legs up the wall, if we're choosing to do our shoulder stand or plow pose, remaining unassisted, otherwise we can prop ourselves up against the wall. Putting our body into an L shape, we can place the hands behind the legs if we need support. Holding here for a few breaths. If we're moving into shoulder stand, bringing the soles of the feet to the ground, placing elbows in towards our side. Lifting ourselves up as if we were going into bridge pose and placing the hands underneath the back. On the inhale, coming up with one leg and then the other. Let's work those elbows in towards each other, placing the hands at the sacrum, pointing up towards the sky with the toes. We can choose to come slightly back with the legs for half shoulder stand, or engage the core, the quads, pointing through the toes, full shoulder stand. We can choose to stay here, come back down, or flow into our plow pose, bringing those toes behind us and letting them drop until the toes touch the floor, continuing to support our lower back. On our next inhale, pointing up one toe, and then the next, coming back into shoulder stand. And then letting ourselves gently come down, one foot and then the other. Having everyone, no matter what we've chosen for our practice, to come back to the ground, bringing knees to chest. Extending the legs out, preparing for fish pose. Bringing the elbows in close to our side. Positioning ourselves properly on the mat if we need to. And taking the hands, placing them into a triangle almost, and placing that underneath the glutes and right around the lower back, the sacrum. On our next inhale, propping ourselves up onto our forearms, bringing the elbows in towards our sides. Adjusting the hands if we need to. Taking an inhale. Exhaling, letting ourselves fall back, pointing through the toes for fish pose. Depending on the openness in our heart, our chest, our shoulders, the head may or may not touch the ground. We round the belly up towards the sky, open up the heart. And on our inhale, coming up, releasing, taking the arms out, adjusting our neck, bringing the hands behind the shins, knees to chest one more time. Finding ourselves with soles of the feet to the ground, arms out to either side. Moving through a gentle spinal twist. Let's take an inhale, exhaling, letting both knees drop to the left. Inhaling to center, exhaling, both knees to the other side. Let's just flow through this a few times. Back to center, knees to chest. The option to come into happy baby pose, reaching between the legs, grabbing onto the big toe, the outside of the feet, or the shins if we wish. Wherever we are, pulling down with the hands as we kick up with the heels. The knees are coming to the outer part of the body. Always the option to rock side to side. For happy baby pose. Soles of the feet back to the ground. If we find we have sensitivity in the back, we can just knock our knees together, tenting them, tenting the legs. Otherwise, extending the legs out for a final relaxation pose. Letting the toes drop wide. Even providing a little bit more width between the legs. Tops of the hands to the ground, spreading our wings open. Walking the shoulders under, opening up the heart. Letting every part of our body melt down into our mats, into the earth. Feeling the energy and the heat that we created during this amazing Power Your Day, Power Yoga practice. Taking the next 3 minutes or so in final relaxation and silence. And I will bring you back to the space whenever the time is up. Enjoy this time. Bringing the attention back to our body, perhaps wiggling the toes and fingers, doing circles with our ankles and wrists in one direction and then the next. Bringing our knees into chest, gently rocking side to side until we rock ourselves over onto our favorite side and bring ourselves back up to a seated position, and enjoying the feeling that we now have after practicing this amazing power yoga practice. Let us all bring our hands to our hearts and bow to each other in gratitude, recognizing each other for the beautiful people that we are. Namaste. Have an absolutely fantastic day.